Hi guys, in this video we are going to address one of the most important topic for every new aspirant. That's how to approach your first UPSC attempt, especially if you're targeting 2026 or 2027. See, I have faced this problem when I was making my attempt. At that point of time, not many are there to guide you. So here I'll be honest with you, the first attempt is going to be the hardest, and because you are new to everything, the syllabus is new, the book list, the timetable, and even how to revise and test yourself. You have no idea. So in this lecture, I'll give you a complete roadmap step by step. And what I'll do is I'll try to cover what all book list that you need to follow with evidence-based examples. I don't want you to follow too many resources. Just stick to one or two resources for every subject, and that I will discuss, and how you're going to make your timetable for your first attempt, and how you're going to manage mains and prelims preparation, because what we need is the integrated prelims and mains preparation. And we'll also discuss how to make the notes and revise, how to handle current affairs, how to read the newspaper, how to give the test effectively, how you're going to take the test series, what kind of mentorship that you need to take, or what kind of classes is required. And finally, how you're going to stay consistent and motivated throughout this long, tough, hard journey. So by the end of this lecture, I'm sure that you will have a very clear sense of direction. So buckle up and take your notes, write it down, and start implementing it. Okay. So let's start with the book list, which is evidence-based and not random. So this is the first and most confusing thing for the beginner. Which books to study? See, you don't want to follow 10 different topos or 10 different telegram lists. Go by data. See what actually maximum people are following. That's the easy way to understand, right? So you don't want to look at any theoretical list. You can look at evidence-based sources that actually used by the students who qualified the recent prelims or the recent exams. So you don't want, see, that kind of approach is what you need to adopt, because what worked now and what worked 5 years ago would be different. So your mentor may not be aware about that also. So you also need to talk to the people who qualified to the exam recently. Now, if you don't have access, anyway, people will have access, and you should be knowing that. So the key takeaway, the point that I want to tell you is that for every subject, I'll talk about the subject, you need only two reliable sources, right? One, and then one more additional, right? So only two reliable sources. For example, if I talk about history, Spectrum, and then Bibin Chandra. That's these two. Beyond that, I'm not going to go for it. So you don't want four, you don't want five, you don't want 10. That will, clutter things. That will make only noise and is not going to be helpful for you. So there are core subjects, 8 core subjects: polity, history, within history, ancient, medieval, modern, geography, economy, environment, science and technology, art and architecture, the culture part, and then current affairs plus CSAT. So these are the core areas. So see, if you read 3-4 resources for every subject, 8 multiplied by 4, 32, you will be drawn in material, and you lose your peace also. You won't retain anything. You will neither finish reading also, nor you make notes out of it, or you are not going to get time to revise also. So you can't, first of all, you can't finish reading, you can't make notes out of it, which is required, you can't revise it. And if you are not able to revise, there is no point in reading. So normally there is a famous saying that you try to read one book 5 times rather than 5 books one time, because you need retention, you need that absolute conceptual clarity. So maximum to the max, if you go for one subject, polity, Lakshmikant, and if I want one more, if I can stick to that one Lakshmikant, perfectly fine. But still, if you feel like either NCRT or DD Basu, one more, the maximum, but stick to Lakshmikant, perfectly fine. History, Spectrum, stick to that, it's perfectly fine. Additionally, if you want maximum, Bibin Chandra. Beyond that, no, I'm not going to touch anything else other than this. This year, they might have asked one question from any other sources, but I'm not going to look into that. It's okay. That's what I want to, follow, right? So you're not going to read 3 or 4 or 5 resources for each subject. Then it is going to be like you'll be drawn into material. So follow maximum 2 sources per subject. and then you stop there and keep revising. That's more important. Don't keep changing the materials every few weeks, because you start with Lakshmikant, stick to Lakshmikant till this attempt. If you clear, next attempt, third attempt, it will be with that only, because that's the most standard material. Spectrum for history, everything is covered over there. So if you are changing the materials, referring to multiple materials, that's the biggest mistake. So see, even during my time also, when I have cleared the exam also, the same strategy, same, you don't want to look at so many resources. Many people fail mainly because they keep switching. They don't get time to revise also. So your first rule, that's the most important rule, stick to limited but authentic and consistent sources. And read it twice, thrice, 5 times, as many times as possible. Try to retain, try to have the complete conceptual clarity. So if I read Parliament, I need to know everything, every micro themes from that, right? Next point that I want to discuss, that's the time management and the daily target. Once your sources are fixed, now you know the book list, right? So for polity, Lakshmikant, for history, spectrum, modern India spectrum, and then for geography, it's the class 6 to 12th NCRTs, plus Goching Leong if you want one more additional source. Economy, TMH you can follow. Like that, once you fix your materials, now the question is how you're going to manage the time, how you're going to complete this. You cannot prepare UPSC randomly. What we need is a system. If you don't have a daily target and then a weekly target and then a monthly target, that syllabus completion of that is a Herculean task. So if you don't have that targets in your mind, randomly you keep reading some materials, you'll not be finishing that syllabus. So that preparation will lose its direction. If you need the direction, you need to have the daily, weekly, monthly targets on how you're going to cover these. And if you are in the right direction, no matter how slow you will go, you will reach the destination. But if you are wrong in the direction, then no matter how fast you go, you're not going to reach the desired destination. Instead of going this direction, this is where you want to reach, you go slowly, still you will reach there. Only thing is that direction need to be correct. But you took a wrong turn this way. Are you going to reach? No. So it's not about reading 10 hours. It's not about reading 15 hours. It's about what you achieved in those 10 or 15 hours, whatever you are spending. So I'm not looking at quantity of time. I'm looking for quality of time. So the time you spend, it should be like quality time you spend. And it has to be like a system. Consistently, you need to do that. So now everyone's speed will be different, right? And the backgrounds are different. The kind of education you got will be different. So as a beginner, reading Lakshmikant for the first time, he may take, a lot of time, right? So he may not be able to finish, maybe let's say one day, 20 pages, because many things may be new to you. But someone who have read it once, right, then he might complete 50 pages a day. So there is a difference. Same is the case with your first attempt and the second attempt. When you're reading the same book, you're already now familiar with the topic. So that speed will be different. The background will be different. The understanding level will be different. So depending upon that, you need to work. So a beginner, when you're reading Lakshmikant or when you're reading history, you may find it slightly difficult and you may take some more time to understand each of these new words. But when you're reading it for the second time, instead of 20 pages, you may be able to complete 50 pages. But when you're reading it for the third time, you may be able to finish even 100 pages a day. So then there is no point in copying someone else's schedule, right? You have to make your own schedule based on your capacity, your grasping power, your strength and your weakness, and that only you know and your mentor know. And you need to have a mentor. You need to have a mentor who will guide you in any circumstances and any situations, in your weakness, in your strength, and in your weak times, in your best times. Every time you should be in a position to talk to a mentor. It could be your colleague, it could be your relative, it could be anyone. But if it is from this background, it will be better. I'll come to that later. So what you need is you need to create realistic targets that daily, that the specific topics, these specific chapters I'll be covering from the subject. Weekly, I'll be covering one subject or one subject revision or one subject revision and a test, that kind of weekly target. Monthly also, like a mock or a cumulative review of whatever subjects I've covered, and then the test and then the revision, like that. So daily, weekly, monthly target. looking at the syllabus is what you need to do. Without direction, if you go, you'll miserably fail and you will not be able to complete the syllabus. So if you need to complete the syllabus, you have to go with this plan. So no topper in this country have cleared UPSC without a plan. So build a plan which suits you based on your strength and weakness, and you own it till you clear the exam. That's what we need. Okay. Now, next question. How I'm going to balance the optional and GS? See, I've joined the classes for your optional subject. So it's like 2 hours a day. This is what people are asking. I'm attending a sociology class. So you are spending 2 hours over there. And then it is going for 2, 3 months. And then, focus on GS subjects along with this optional is getting slightly difficult because after this 2 hour class, I need to prepare for another 1 hour. And then GS class is also there, and then prepare for GS class. So the point is, because this happens when you are the beginner, right? Because you're joining a GS class and you're joining a sociology class or optional class simultaneously with 2 institutions. So you need to manage that. But don't try to jiggle multiple GS papers. You'll just burn it if you do so. Once optional is complete, then you can pick up 2 GS papers, GS subjects at a time. That is manageable. But otherwise, if I'm sticking with polity as a beginner, I'm sticking with polity. So half of the day I'll spend for polity, half of the day I'll spend for my optional in the beginning, because I need to get strong foundation in the optional also. That you should be getting from the beginning itself. Similarly, this area also, I need to get that strong foundation. So if I'm looking to study history and polity, 2 from GS and then sociology, then I'll clutter everything. It is going to be difficult. So initially, during your optional preparation, focus only 1 GS paper. Once you are done with optional, then 2 GS paper. Right? Or once first reading is completed of these GS papers, then you can, because I told you initially when you read 20 pages per day, next time 50 pages. So you can now read 2 sources at that point of time. So don't try to jiggle up multiple GS papers. Right. So once the optional is complete or one reading of the GS foundation is complete, then you can do that. So with optionals, like you can do maybe GS paper 2, or you do ethics, like one subject. Now, after finishing the optional, GS1, GS3 combo you can do, polity economic combo you can do, right? And as soon as you finish GS paper, you start answer writing practice for it. Now, there is no need to wait for finishing and GS paper also, but why I told to finish GS paper is because once one reading is complete, that's when you actually get to know what to write, something to write. Otherwise, you don't know anything to write. Just see one topic and then asking you to write about that is not, useful. Once you read things, maybe it took 2, 3 months, and after that, when you start writing, your answer will flow, follow some logic. Otherwise, you'll find it extremely difficult to write the answer, and you'll be demotivated also by seeing your own answer. So even 2, 3 questions daily will be enough, but you have to write your answer once you have some decent knowledge about all these areas. So do this for 6 months, and you'll have written around 6 months, 180 days. So 3 questions a day, 540 to 600 questions you might have written, and that's equivalent of solving 15 full GS papers or 20 full GS papers, or maybe more, right? So consistency is what we need. Every day, if you do it, you won't feel that you are writing this much. But if I am sitting one day to write this many answers or 10 days to write this many answers, I may not be able to complete it. It will be like 15 full GS paper. But over a period of time when I'm doing, I have that impact. So that means the consistency beats intensity at any point of time. I don't want that motivation and then intensive work on one day, but nothing on the next day. I want consistency, regularity. Now, the next question, how to read the newspaper, how to cover the current affairs. See, when you are a beginner, I would say you spend 1 hour on reading Hindu, the first page, and then the editorials, right? International page, and then the business page or the economic page, like that, to get some idea. But when you're matured enough, you just look at the front page and the editorials, and rest of the current affairs, everything will cover from the other resources. You don't want to break your head for taking the notes or wasting too much of time on the newspaper. Hardly you will have to spend 30 minutes once you're matured enough. But in the beginning, you may have to spend 1 hour, 1.5 hours, so that you'll understand things. Right? So this is a most important area where beginners actually get lost. And I know many people spend 4 hours That happens in the beginning because you have never read Hindu before. Now you're coming and reading Hindu when you start most of us read the newspaper when you start the preparation. And that time it's extremely difficult and it takes 4 hours. I know, even when I started, I took 4 hours to, by 5 o'clock, I wake up and I get the newspaper by 9:30. I'll complete reading the newspaper, underline everything, taking notes. That is not going to work out. So we need that smart strategy, smart preparation, that we have all the resources, we get all the current affairs, we can get every test and all the topics which is important. So we leverage that, right? But initially you spend 1.5 hours so that you'll get that flow. So some people, read 3 newspapers. Like I used to read Hindu and Indian Express, sometimes Indian instead of Indian Express, Times of India, and then Business Standard or Economic Times. So Hindu, Indian Express, Business Standard, these three I used to follow. Some read, maybe 10 PDFs, many magazines, Friendline and all these Economic and Political Weekly. Please don't do that. Whatever is relevant, you don't worry at this point of time. We'll get everything for you towards the end, right? Not towards the end. Every month we'll be bringing that current affairs, what is required for you. Every month we'll be conducting a monthly test of 100 questions, 100 topic we'll cover. We'll do that for 15 months for your prelims. And then after that, consolidated entire 15 months test. So total 2000 topics, 2000 questions, 2000 solutions. When you read that, you cover current affairs intensively and extensively, right? So this is what so what you need to do is pick one newspaper, Hindu or Indian Express. Hindu, okay, fine. And if you want to, make your notes. But even I don't want to waste time on that. Maybe you read the first page, the main news, important events. If anything there in the international page, just look at that. And then editorials. Then use one monthly magazine. Anyone, you may get it from Vision, IAS, or Forum, or our own material. You supplement the notes if you have taken the notes. Otherwise, you just follow that. So if you find something new in the magazines, you can add to that notebook if you have prepared the notes. Otherwise, you follow that material. That's enough. And don't depend, uh, everything on your notes or everything on the newspaper. I've seen that people try to be very much perfectionist rather than looking at the materials. I look at the newspaper, I take down everything because I am the best and no one will do it as best as that I can do for myself. That's not the case. There are experts, they're doing it and they are paid heavily for doing it. And that's their only job. So when they are doing it, leverage that. Only issue is that it may come late. But if you are doing it, you'll get it done daily. But that may come by the end of the month. So for me personally, reading one newspaper a day makes sense, and making short notes, that would be enough. So guys, again, current affairs are valuable only when you link them with the static topics. So if the news is coming related to governor, you should be knowing everything from polity from the chapter of governor. So that's when, whether in mains or in prelims, they'll ask you those conceptual questions and then you should be in a position to write. Now, when you collect these 100 pages of facts, right, there is 1000 pages of facts, which is of no use if you cannot connect it with the static paper. Now, the next part is answer writing practice for mains. See, this is one of the biggest weakness for the first attempt aspirants, especially because you have not written answers. You might have completed, yes, your college and then you're coming, but you might not have written the kind of answers that you need in UPSC. So everyone plans to start answer writing after prelims. That's the main issue. But after prelims, hardly 70 to 80 days left. So between prelims and mains, if you see, just 70 days, which will vanish just like that. So if you think that you can build writing skills in that 70 days, then you are absolutely wrong. It needs months of gradual improvement. You cannot go like this. You need a gradual, that's why 6 months of consistent effort, I told you. By that time, you'll be writing 15 full GS papers actually. So start early, get that improvement gradually. Even if you write 2 answers daily from GS3, GS4, you will still have 300 plus answers by 6 months, which is 15 tests. So follow the cycle, like you read, revise, recall, then write and evaluate yourself. After that, you give it to your mentor and then follow his feedback. Cool. If no mentor, your friends. So if you're confident in self-evaluation, with that itself, it's fine. Otherwise, join our test series. after the prelims or any other test series, or talk to your mentor. But before that, what you need is you need to learn the art of structuring, like how I'm going to write the introduction. I've done the video, you can go through that. How I'm going to manage the subheadings depending upon the demand of the question. What all points I need to bring in. Is it possible for me to make a diagram or a flowchart or anything in this particular question? How to write the conclusion in this question as per the demand of the question. So you can even learn from many free answer writing playlists which I have done. I've discussed the keywords that the UPSC ask always and how to answer questions based on the keywords. So point is, practice consistently, not randomly. Today I feel like writing an answer, I'll write 10 answers. No. If this 10 answer you're writing in every day, 5 days, 2 answers will be much better than writing 10 answer on one weekend. Write 2 answers every day will be much better than writing 10 answers together on a weekend. That's where you'll find that gradual, consistent improvement. Now, let's come to prelim strategy. Let's talk about prelims now, because this is where most first timers struggle. See, assume that you'll begin your dedicated prelims preparation by, let's say, December 15 or Jan 1st. Let's talk about Jan 1st, because till December, I told you in the previous video, you're going to complete your optional sociology and your mains foundation and the core subjects, and exclusive prelims preparation you'll be starting from your Jan 1st. So that means roughly you have 5 to 6 months, right? That's the focus time that you're actually getting, 5 months. So in these 5 to 6 months, what you will do, you'll be spending the first 2-3 months by reading, all your sources once. If you have already done one reading, that's very better, very much good. The next 3 months are for revision, the mock test, and the current affairs integration. And during this time, you have to practice minimum 40 mock tests. That's why we have 38 tests actually. In fact, 38 tests plus, which include GS and CSAT. GS means in sectional test, sectional current affairs; in comprehensive test, comprehensive current affairs, everything. So GS, comprehensive, GS sectional, current affairs, comprehensive current affairs sectional, and then CSAT. That's what 38 test. Apart from that, 15 CSAT, this current affairs test is also there. Just before I have mentioned, 2000 topics will be covered. So practice that sectional full length and revise your note 3-4 times, as many times as possible. Retain, concepts and everything, and make sure you'll be solving some of the CSAT previous year papers also. So see, nothing prepare you better than the real UPSC papers. So solve last 5 CSAT papers, that will be enough. In CSAT, even engineers should practice previous year questions, because the pattern is conceptual and it's not just mathematical. So don't think that I'm BTech and I'm engineer. You might have lost it, those touch and everything. And it's not math purely. Cool. Now let's come to one of the most misunderstood parts. That's making notes. Don't want to make notes for everything, right? If you start writing notes, you'll make another copy of Lakshmikant. That's not required. There is no need to rewrite Lakshmikant or modern history. Why? Because those books themselves are written in a note format only. If you look at Spectrum, that's clearly note format. Every line there is already a question. I can make a question from each and every single line from that. Right? So if you try to rewrite them, you'll waste time and you will lose clarity. Instead, what you can do for prelims is make notes only if you can create concise and comprehensive summaries. Like 100 page, if you can condense to something like 25 pages without missing a single important fact. That is something which you can try. Because when you're writing from your hand, it is going to be very easy for you to do the revision. And for mains, notes can be very brief and conceptual. Even if you skip few facts over there, no problem. You can still write an analytical answer, because mains is about analytical answer. So also try to consolidate your notes every few months. And if you have old notes and new materials, merge them, add the current affairs. And how you refine your content and make that revision friendly by integrating this. Right? So if your revision is easy, then your recall will be very powerful. Make that revision easy, and that's the purpose of these notes. Because revision is what most aspirants ultimately ignore. Revision is the real game changer. And most aspirants read everything but forget to revise. And that's where they lose. If you are not able to revise, then better don't read. There is of no use of reading. Revision must be done in multiple times, multiple phases. If you have joined a test series, use their schedule to time your revision. For example, we have started our test series, right? So next week, I think it's history. So you'll be completing your history, right? Your revision is also done. So if you haven't joined any series, no problem. Just download any test schedule from any of the academy from the internet and use it to pace your revisions. So the goal is to ensure that every subject get revised 3-4 times before the exam. 3-4 times you have to do the revision. No compromise on that. See, always remember that forgetting curve, right? Forgetting curve. If you read something once, you forget it within days. But if you revise it 3-4 times, it becomes part of your permanent memory. So your revision cycle should look like, you read, you revise, then you test, you analyze, revise again, repeat the cycle. This is what keeps you recall sharp on exam day. Otherwise, you may forget things. Never, ever give a test without revision. It's ultimate. When you're giving test, it should be with a purpose. Revision must be there. So if you score high without revision, you'll get overconfident, right? So if you score low without revision, you will lose morale also. So better you do revision, because both are dangerous. You didn't do revision. You went for the exam. You scored high. You get overconfident. So you won't revise it again. And you didn't do revision. You went for the exam. You score less. You are losing the morale. Both are dangerous. So prepare properly before every test, because every test should come with a purpose. Treat it like the real UPSC exam. Give at least 40 tests before your prelims. Mix the sectional and full-length papers like the way we have done. And after every test, note down your mistakes, right? Your error log should be there. It can be in an Excel sheet or in a notebook. Identify which subjects or topics that you are weak in and track your blind guesses and 50-50 accuracy rates. That's how you improve your elimination skills. Even toppers don't know more than 45 to 50 questions for sure. The rest is intelligent elimination, and that skill that develop only through giving multiple tests and intelligent guessing. So make test a core part of your preparation. It's an integral part of your preparation, not an optional activity. So it's as important as you reading. That's when you will get that other skill of elimination, right? See, this exam is as much as mental as it is academic. Psychological part is also very much involved in this. So treat every mock test as a real UPSC exam. Raise your stakes deliberately. If you can handle pressure during the mocks, you'll stay calm in the actual exam also. If you treat the mock test also as actual exam. So don't take the test casually. When the stakes are high, your brain learns to focus better. So raise your stakes deliberately, even in your mock test. And if you fail in some of the mocks, that's okay. Failure in mocks save you from failure in the final exam. And from that mistakes, that should be your stepping stones, and you can learn from that. And the goal is to train your nerves. That becomes part of your internal memory, right? And the final battle is with respect to the consistency and motivation. Every aspirant goes through phases of doubt, burnout, and low motivation during the preparation. Even toppers, everyone go through these different phases, different cycles. When that happens, don't seek external motivation. Just remind yourself why you started all these. Why you started all these? What's your ultimate goal? What dream made you to pick this path? The secret to clearing UPSC is not daily inspiration. It's boring consistency. It's not motivation on some days. It's that fucking consistency that you have. See, Virat Kohli once said, be boring, follow your process. That's exactly what UPSC demands. That's what business demands. That's what trading demands. So stick to your schedule, trust your plan, and don't keep changing your strategies every now and then, every week. Don't keep changing your materials. There is no single fixed formula for success. Every aspirant have different journey based on their capacity. They have different plans based on their ability. But one thing is common among all those who clear. They stay consistent till the end, and they work really well. So don't waste your time in daydreaming or stressing about a plan B. Focus on today's work, one step at a time. The rest will fall into automatically. This bricks will set automatically and everything will fall into place automatically. Don't worry about that. So just focus on today's work, follow the process, forget the outcome. It will be for you. So let's summarize whatever I have discussed today. What I said first is follow a limited evidence-based book list. Nothing more than 2 resources for subject. 1 is fine. Build your own timetable. Don't copy others because everyone is different. Everyone's capacity is different. And manage optional and GS smartly. Make your current affairs notes regularly. Write 2-3 mains answers a day and start prelims preparation by end of December exclusively. Revise in multiple phases during test and don't skip revisions. Give at least 40 well-prepared tests with evaluation and track the mistakes and improve accuracy after every test. And above all, stay consistent, patient, and confident and self-believing. Guys, remember your first attempt is your most beautiful one. You're learning, you're growing, and discovering your potential. So if you follow these principles with discipline, 2026 can be your selection year in your very first attempt. So all the best. I see you in the next video. Thank you so much for attending the session till now. And in case if you're looking for any mentorship or classes, get in touch with us. I see you there.